Well, guys, I'm delighted to be here. And actually, in honor of the Berlin School, I am wearing my Berlin boots. I actually bought these very funky footwear in Berlin when I was speaking at the Next 10 Game Changers conference last year. I'm going to tell you about my startup. And by the way, just because she has to leave early, my co-founder and head of user experience, Uni Chase, is in the back over there. Identify yourself, Uni. And she's absolutely, woo, woo, woo! And she's fantastic. You can follow her on Twitter at Uni with 3 O's, and you should. IfWeRanTheWorld is an idea that came out of 2 places. It came out of the kind of person I am, and it came out of the industry that is my and our background, which is advertising. When I say it came out of the kind of person I am, a number of you in the audience who know me already will totally know this, but I'm somebody who is naturally very action-oriented. I'm all about making things happen. I totally believe in be the change you want to see, and I have, quite frankly, a very low tolerance level for people who whinge and whine about stuff and never do anything to change it. And it was all of that that made me realize that actually the single biggest pool of untapped natural resource in this world is human good intentions that never translate into action. And even though I call myself action-oriented, I can actually be just as bad as anybody else, because I'll be reading the New York Times and I'll see a story and I'll go, oh my God, that's terrible. I must do something about that. I'll turn the page and the moment's gone. The intention was absolutely there, but it never got acted on. And so I just found myself thinking, if you could find a way to take all of those good intentions that all of us have on a daily basis and somehow find a way to turn them at the moment of intention into action, you would then unleash a source of energy and power that really could do extraordinary things in the world. So that was one half of my thinking. The other half was born of 25 years working in brand building, marketing, and advertising, where I thought, actually, I know there is another, equally large, equally powerful, equally untapped pool of resource, which is corporate good intentions, which are the good intentions of companies, large and small, who totally know in order to earn the right to do business in the world today, they have to be, quote, corporately socially responsible, often have very large budgets dedicated to CSR, employ whole teams of people whose sole purpose in life is to find effective ways to spend those budgets, and who nevertheless end up wasting them. Doing things like taking out full-page ads in the Wall Street Journal saying, look how green we are, that nobody reads, and at the same time are missing the opportunity to align their CSR agenda with their day-to-day business objectives and integrate the two in a way that proves you can do good and make money simultaneously. So I decided I wanted to find a way to bring those 2 things together, human good intentions and corporate good intentions, and to find a way to activate them collectively into shared action against shared objectives that would produce shared and mutually ownable results. I decided I wanted to explode the model that currently exists in this marketplace, both external and internal. The external model is the one currently signed up to by just about every brand, company, non-profit, agency, social enterprise going, and it goes like this. Let's aggregate individuals around causes, and then let's invite brands and businesses to, and I call this the S word, sponsor those causes. And I call it the S word because sponsorship in that scenario all too often means hand over your money, we'll stick your logo where you don't get in the way, we'll carry on doing what we're doing, you can associate with it. And no real collective action, and importantly, no real tapping into everything the business actually has to offer, in fact, takes place. The internal model within companies all too often goes, oh yeah, we should be corporately social responsible. We should do something. Ooh, haven't the faintest idea what? Let's find some causes and support them. And that way, no integrating of social responsibility into the way the company does business on a day-to-day basis that makes it a key driver of future growth and profitability actually takes place. Now, when I embarked on this venture, coming from our world, I'm particularly aware it is never just what you do, it's the way that you do it. And one of the things I was acutely conscious of was the fact that for a lot of people and companies, sadly, the whole idea of doing good is inherently very, very boring. So when you go to the homepage of many a non-profit social enterprise, you are met by an instant yawn factor born of worthy but dull syndrome. As in, I know it's very good for me, oh my God, I'm half asleep already. I decided I wanted to find a way to make doing good sexy as hell. Sexy as hell for individuals and very sexy and compelling for businesses. And you make something sexy for business when you show them how it makes them money. So, IfWeRanTheWorld is what I call emotional software. It's the synthesis of technology and psychology. Because you could argue, I'm trying to solve the fundamental human dilemma. How do you turn intention into action? Sounds so easy, totally isn't. And so IfWeRanTheWorld is the combination, on the one hand, rational functionality and technology, but on the other, it's the result of a huge amount of study of many layers of human psychological motivation and emotional dynamics. Because it's only when you combine the two that you achieve the single hardest task in the world, which is to change human behavior. And in fact, I do explain to people that I have the best possible background for a venture designed to turn good intentions into action, because I've spent 25 years working in the business of getting people to do things they originally had no intention of doing, which is what we all do. So I'm going to walk you through how IfWeRanTheWorld works. And I should stress that we're very new. We are 10 months old in beta. We launched with a demo at TED last year as minimum viable product. We built the platform to the bare minimum needed to take it operational, and we are real-world testing it alongside our development timeline. And that's been absolutely invaluable for reasons that I'll come on to talk to you about. But when I talk about emotional software, the homepage of IfWeRanTheWorld is, as you will see, deliberately Google-esque in its simplicity. It just says, if I ran the world, I would, and a box. Nothing else. I designed that, by the way, to be deliberately mysterious and intriguing. People have often lost sight of the power of mystery and intrigue in a world today that strips a lot of it out of everyday life. Google has ruined many first dates. But it's designed like that also to be inspirational and empowering, because a lot of people, particularly young people, and by the way, IfWeRanTheWorld is a mass market play, but my core target is Generation Y, lots of you guys. I want to start with the people who really want to change the world and then bring everybody else with them. A lot of people, particularly young people, feel they have no control over anything that happens to them in their lives at all. If you're young, your life is bounded by your parents, your teachers, education institution, lack of funds, dead-end jobs. This is designed to make you think, wow, I could run the world. What would I do? But it's particularly designed that way because this is a platform for anyone who's ever gone, I want to do something about this, but I don't know what or how. Now, if you feel that, and you go to the homepage of any one of a raft of other sites, also trying to tackle this area, you know, here in the US, we have dosomething.org, takepart.com, changeants.org. What happens is that you are instantly met and assailed by causes. You are met by AIDS, poverty, world health, environment. You go, oh my God, there are all these things. You're paralyzed into inactivity through too much choice. When, on the other hand, you are asked to answer the question, if you ran the world, what would you do? It forces you to stop and think about what you believe in, what you value, what you actually care about to want to do something about, and it literally draws the answer out of you. And it begins the process of emotionally owning that answer as the first step in a platform that is designed to make it impossible for you not to act on it. So, when you enter whatever your answer might be, we give you 4 points of access into IfWeRanTheWorld. First of all, we show you all the microactions to do with that area that you could pick up and act on immediately. The microaction is the atomic unit of IfWeRanTheWorld in the same way that the tweet is the atomic unit of Twitter. A microaction is the action equivalent of 140 characters or less. It's an incredibly small, simple, easy-to-do action, so easy to do, why wouldn't you do it? So we're tapping into two very powerful dynamics in the marketplace today, crowdsourcing and the power of small increments. We have microfinance with Kiva, we have microblogging with Twitter. Taking that to the next level is microactions. So we show you the microactions you can pick up and do. We show you the action platforms other people have started. So you might have entered something quite big and lofty, and someone else might have tangibilized that into an achievable goal. And you might go, wow, I'm going to jump on and help them. We show you the people behind all of these microactions and action platforms, and we call the ability to browse IfWeRanTheWorld by user the wall of hotness. And that's because we don't care what your motivation is. It's absolutely fine to look at those people and go, "Quah, fancy the pants off you. No idea what you're doing, but I'm helping." Totally fine. And if none of those actually do it for you, then you can, in fact, start your own action platform and bring your friends in to act with you. So, as I said, we are real-world testing IfWeRanTheWorld while we build it, and we're still building it. And that's for two reasons. The first is that we are not just a crowdsourced platform, we are quite literally a crowdsourced venture. Our users are helping us shape and craft the user experience based on the real-world, real-time input, feedback, and insight they're giving us. And the other reason is we realized we had no idea how people would actually use this platform until we put it out in the real world and found out. And people are using it in ways that we never envisaged. Our users are surfacing their own use case scenarios, and so our development process is organic and iterative because we are looking at those and we're going, wow, we can work with that, and we're building and shaping it accordingly. So people are using IfWeRanTheWorld to change things about their local communities. This is a user who lives in Detroit who wants to transform Alta Road, which is the front line of urban blight. And he's being helped here by Ben Bater, by the way, who is one of the two co-founders of textfromlastnight.com, one of my all-time favorite websites. Are you guys familiar with textfromlastnight.com, by the way? Who's aware of it? Show of hands. OK, not nearly enough. Sorry, this is a critically important, right, sidebar. Critically important component for the Berlin School of Creative Leadership. You must visit textfromlastnight.com. The tagline is, remember that drunken text you sent last night? We do. And it's entirely user-generated. It's drunken texts that you and your friends submit. But I recommend to everybody in our industry that they go to textfromlastnight.com. And I recommend it for three reasons. The first is that it is screamingly, hysterically funny, obviously. You will have tears running down your face in front of your computer. The second is that it is what I call SMS as modern poetry. SMS as art form. And again, when you see these, you'll see what I mean. But the third reason, at a much more serious level, is that it is an utterly riveting socio-cultural snapshot of our times. You can extrapolate every possible theme of human behavior from textfromlastnight.com. The way men talk about women, the way women talk about men, the pornification of our culture, something I address with my other venture, Make Love Not Porn. All human life is there. And in fact, textfromlastnight.com particularly demonstrates what I always say, which is that social media is all the same old human behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, and instincts, just with a whole new methodology. Because textfromlastnight.com demonstrates why what we do is so badly needed in the world. And I will just share with you one of my favorite texts from that site, which says it all. So let me get this straight. You would sleep with an uncircumcised guy whose name you didn't know, but you won't try the new shrimp taco from Taco Bell. That's the world we live in. OK, sidebar, Ben Bater is one of the two co-founders. He and Lauren Leto are both friends of mine, and I love what they're doing. And they are Detroit, they're Michigan natives, so that's why he's helping here. So you can help regenerate your local community. You can get a woman elected to city council in Ottawa's 2010 municipal elections. And in fact, interestingly enough, that woman, Oni Joseph, ran her entire municipal electoral campaign in Bay Ward, Ottawa, off IfWeRanTheWorld. And when she brought that to us, we found that fascinating because one of the fundamental tenets of IfWeRanTheWorld is transparency. We set out to design a platform that would make it impossible for you not to act. So we stripped out everything not to do with action. There are no message boards. There are no chat rooms. You cannot be on IfWeRanTheWorld and not be acting because it's really obvious if you don't. That is particularly interesting in a political candidacy context, because this is where, as a candidate, you go, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm doing about it, and you have to. Full accountability because of full transparency. And secondly, this is where you invite your constituents in to do it with you. Oni created a bunch of action platforms around what the community wanted to see happen, and she invited them in to microact with her. This is where you don't leave the people on the steps of the Senate House, you invite them into the Senate House with you. With IfWeRanTheWorld, we are all about the fact that the top-down model, of making things happen through hierarchies, organizations, institutions is broken. There is a new bottom-up model emerging of collaborative people power and collective action. And that's as much the case in politics as anywhere else. Very unfortunately, Oni didn't win her seat. She was one Haitian woman running against 8 white guys. She was the total outlier. It's a shame because it would have been a great case study for us, but she's determined to run again, and we are totally there supporting her when she does. If We Ran the World is a global proposition. We haven't been able to do anything proactively about that because we are up to our eyeballs as a very lean bootstrapping team just building it. But from the moment we launched it, it went global. People have started up action platforms in Taiwan, in Cambodia, in Saudi Arabia, in Lebanon. And people have reached out from countries all around the world saying, we love what you're doing, we'd love to make it happen on the ground here. And we have 3 sets of criteria as to whether a country constitutes the right test market for IfWeRanTheWorld. The first is the single most important one. Everything starts with people. Is there on the ground what I call a human dynamo? Someone prepared to move heaven and earth to make this happen? When we've established that, the second set of criteria is environmental. It works best for us at this stage of our life cycle if the country in question is a very small self-contained market where English is the main language. We will be translated ultimately, but currently we only operate in English. Where there is a high density in the population of Generation Y, and when it's Generation Y motivated by circumstances, whether those be political, economic, or social-cultural, to want to take matters into their own hands and do something about them. So we are working with Ireland, South Africa, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, all of which conform to those criteria. And then the third set of criteria is simply the hard-headed ones of can we put in place on the ground the components needed to actually make this a viable business operation. 1 or 2 brand founder members to sign up, prove our business model, which I'll come on to, communities we can help, partners, organizations. So this is an action platform that was started in Waitakere in New Zealand, and people are organizing events of IfWeRanTheWorld. This is your profile on IfWeRanTheWorld. So when I talk about emotional software, here's another example of what I mean. All online social networks currently are underpinned by one fundamental human truth: sex and dating. As in, oh, we're all very seriously, legitimately gathered here to talk about, whoa, you're hot, let's date. Okay, that's what's really going on a lot of the time. I would like to leverage that dynamic overtly. I would like to make taking action the new social and sexual attractiveness value. I would like to make, do you act, become the new measure of how attractive somebody is, as opposed to how many friends do you have here, how many videos do you post there. I don't feel this is too much of a stretch because we already admire people who get shit done, who make stuff happen. But the way this plays out on IfWeRanTheWorld is, again, all over the net currently, when you post your profile on other online social networks, you can post whatever you want. You can post a photograph of you at your most attractive. You can post a carefully crafted mosaic of the books you like and the music you like that gives a certain impression. You can lie. Fake username, fake photograph, entirely fake profile. On IfWeRanTheWorld, you can't lie about anything. Apart from some basic information about yourself you enter right up front, your profile is entirely dynamically generated by your actions. And the more you act, the more it builds up to become multifaceted, aspirational, and attractive. So when you look at it, it is you at a glance self-identifying and self-expressing in a very particular way, which is quite literally, you are what you do. You are the sum of your actions. This adds up to an overall benefit that I call action branding. Personal action branding for individuals and corporate action branding for brands and businesses. Because brand profiles work in exactly the same way. You can enter some information up front, but otherwise, they're entirely generated by your actions. Not PR, not spin, not greenwashing. And so I talk about action branding as the advertising of the future. Because coming from the ad industry, I happen to believe the advertising of the future is not about saying, it's about doing. It's not about telling, it's about being. Brands will be judged by their actions just as people are, and so action branding is communication through demonstration. It's walking the talk. And I'm going to come on in more detail to what that means when I talk about the brand and business user proposition. So your profile builds up as the sum of your actions, and what also builds up as you act are your superpowers. So going back to emotional software again, and I showed you the homepage at IfWeRanTheWorld. And when my designer first showed me the homepage, he said, okay, Cindy, this is what you wanted. You know, it's just, if I ran the world, I would in a box. And we've put a button in the box so that people know that when they come here and they see an empty box, there's somewhere to go when they fill it in. I said, no. Take the button out, I don't want it. I want you to arrive at our homepage, be faced with, if I ran the world, I would in a box and nothing else, because I want that to force a few moments of what very rarely happens in our lives today, which is self-reflection. In the same way, I said to my team, I want your profile to build up on If We Ran the World in a way that could be a revelation even to you. And what I mean by that is, we have divided microactions into 5 groups of verbs, and we've color-coded them. And at the moment, it's a bit clunky because you have to classify the microaction yourself when you create it. Ultimately, this will be algorithmic. It'll classify itself as you create it. So microactions are either creative microactions, so those are microactions that are about ideating, generating, coming up with something, or they are producer microactions. They're about executing, building, developing, or they're organizing microactions. They're about connecting, coordinating, networking, or they're supporting microactions, about researching, promoting, or they're funding microactions. Funding, fundraising, a microaction can be a microdonation, microlending, microfunding. And as you pick up the microactions that come easiest to you, these attributes manifest as your superpowers. So you might look at your superpowers in front of one and you go, wow, great. I'm 60% creative, 22% producer, 8% organizer. Terrific. Always thought I was creative, nice to have it confirmed. It's a bit like the action equivalent of the Myers-Briggs profiling exercise. But then you can adjust that picture. You might go, well, that's all well and good, but I want people to see me as someone who not only has ideas, but makes them happen. I want to rack up the producer side of my profile, and so I'm going to pick up a bunch of producer microactions, which I can spot because they're the pink ones. We see this as the antidote to and the antithesis of the Facebook profile problem. What I mean by that is the first thing anybody does today when they meet you, personally or professionally, is Google you. And your Facebook profile normally shows up on page 1 of Google. And if the person Googling you is your prospective employer or the college admissions office, and there's a photo of you on Facebook with a bong, you're in trouble. You can't eradicate that, but you can balance it out. This is where you go, this is my real-world resume. This is what I stand for, this is what I'm doing about it. And the fun and frivolity of Facebook is balanced out by authentic action in the real world. What also builds up around you on If Around the World is your tribe. Your tribe are the people that you've helped and they've helped you. You've done a microaction for them, they've done a microaction for you. So these are not meaningless click of a mouse fans or friends. You have a meaningful relationship. You are bonded by action, which is the quickest way to build trust online, even amongst complete strangers. I designed If We Ran the World deliberately as a for-profit venture. Apart from the fact that I need the money, because BBH should not make me rich, sadly, I observe that non-profits get marginalized in the same way that CSR divisions within businesses get marginalized. As in, oh, those are the chaps who give our PR folks something to talk about, while we'll get on over here with the hardcore business of making money. Until you bring those two things together, nothing's going to change. I would like to help drive and create the business of the future. I have to be one myself. I have to prove that I can do good and make money in order to convince anybody else. So, If We Ran the World's business model is grounded in the brand and business user side of the equation. I designed If We Ran the World to work in exactly the same way for individuals and for businesses. And that's because I observed a received wisdom on the individual side today that all too often goes, all business is bad. And so the only way you get business to do what it should be doing is to publicly lobby, shame, embarrass, and humiliate doing the right thing. And you instantly have a relationship set up that is combative and adversarial. I wanted to create a forum to bring together individual passion, commitment, and motivation with business resource, funding, and clout, but where both could come together, act together, and be judged together by one thing only, which is, what are you doing? Action is a great leveler, and it's also a great unifier. It's a great bonding device. So we ask brands and businesses to access If We Ran the World in exactly the same way as individuals. We ask them to answer the question, if you ran the world, what would you do? Which asked of a business has a very specific resonance. It's asking, effectively, given your sphere of day-to-day operations, what does that make your responsibility? If this is how you make money, how does this demand you then address the impact that consequently have on, it might be the environment, the community, society, the world, and just like individuals, some brands know the answer immediately, some have actually been founded around it, but others, the vast majority, haven't the faintest idea. They know they should do something, but they don't know what. And that's where we come in. So brands pay us to activate their values and turn them into authentic action. We create action programs that are deliberately designed to integrate social responsibility and business and to do good and make money simultaneously. And not in the old world order way of we make money here and then we do good by writing checks to causes to clear our conscience, but in the new world order way of we make money because we do good. The construct of an action program is enormously simple, but nobody's doing it like this because the two things it brings together are siloed in every company. Brand marketing, social responsibility. Never the twain shall meet. An action program goes very simply, if you're a brand, this is how we make money. This is the responsibility that therefore places upon us. This is therefore the area we should be acting in. Here's the action program we design, we help with all of this, and here's how we implement and then measure and report back on results. And I explain to brands that when you do that, you create what I call a virtuous circle of rationale for the consumer. Because you enable the consumer to go, oh, I get it. This is how you make money. You understand and accept the responsibility that places upon you. This is what you're doing about it. Here's how your actions feed into how you manufacture, produce, sell, market goods and services. That makes the purchase of goods and services meaningful to me, strong competitive advantage. I feel good about buying whatever it is you do. I feel good about you carrying on doing it. You carry on doing it, everyone is happy. Make money, all good. I explain to brands that when you take out those full-page ads and shoot those TV commercials saying, look how social responsible we're being, people go, I know why you're doing that. You're doing it so you can advertise it. Whereas if you do it, and you invite people in to do it with you, you don't have to say anything. It's self-evident. People can always argue with what you say. They cannot argue with what you do. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by action branding and action programs. I'm in the process of identifying a very small group of brand founder members. Small because this community is self-selecting. I'm looking for brands who get it, who share our vision, know this is where the future is headed, and are therefore open to signing up for what I characterize very honestly as a landmark social experiment. And I really stress the experiment bit. I go, guys, I cannot tell you exactly how this will play out. But that's a lot less unreassuring than it sounds, because today all development is organic. You give the community the platform, you see what they do with it. But essentially, you're signing up for co-experimentation. So our first brand founder member who was brave enough to do this was Levi's. And when I met with Levi's towards the end of the year before last, they had just launched their new ad campaign through their agency, Wieden & Kennedy, with the tagline, Go Forth. Very nice campaign, a clarion call to the youth America to build a future of America. Took the Declaration of Independence, repurposed it in modern day language as a youth manifesto, lots of beautiful black and white photographs of guys and girls in Levi's in prairies, cornfields, still just an ad campaign. I said to them, this is how you activate Go Forth, with an action program designed to roll up brand, product, social responsibility, and business in a way designed to do an awful lot of good and sell an awful lot of Levi's. Because I'm a hard-headed, pragmatic businesswoman. I'm out to prove that you can absolutely do a shed load of good and shift a shed load of product. I said to them, your target audience is my target audience, Gen Y, and I've observed, post the global financial meltdown, a real backlash within Gen Y against Wall Street, financial trickery, everything that got us into the mess we're in, and a corresponding interest in the concept of an honest day's labor for an honest day's pay, manual labor, blue-collar work, getting your hands dirty, back to the land, lots of conversations about organic farming, urban gardening, because this is also a generation that cares, where the food they put in their mouth comes from. I said that represents a real opportunity to quite literally invite the youth of America to rebuild America from the ground up, with community-based action programs designed to regenerate, communities afflicted by urban blight, like Detroit, or natural disaster, New Orleans post-Hurricane Katrina. You create action platforms and microactions that invite people to come and get their hands dirty, build low-income housing, paint community centers, or you can support from further afield. You don't have to, you can donate supplies, support in other ways. But what do you wear when you do that work? You wear the original jeans that were created for exactly that purpose back in the 1800s for miners, to get their hands dirty. You create an emotional rationale for the consumer, and you authenticate your brand values through action. So Levi's like this. They signed on. They briefed it into their agency Wyden. And Wyden identified a small town in Pennsylvania called Braddock. Braddock was a steel mining town. The mines closed down, decimated the population. Braddock is dirt poor. The mayor of Braddock is a visionary guy called John Fetterman. That's him up there. Doesn't look like your average mayor. One of the youngest mayors in America. He's been working to rebuild Braddock from the ground up with the community. So Braddock forms the linchpin of the marketing program for Levi's new range of workwear, jeans, We Are All Workers. And we are working with Levi's and Braddock to activate action platforms within Braddock that are about helping the community rebuild themselves from the ground up. And it's important to say, by the way, that at IfWeRanTheWorld, we don't do it for you. We enable you to do it for yourself. We're about helping communities, individuals self-organize, self-manage, self-sustain, because that's how you affect real change. So we have action platforms that are, if Levi's ran the world, they would keep Braddock's heritage alive by regenerating the Braddock Carnegie Library. They would expand Braddock Farms. And there are microactions on these action platforms ranging from, you can actually come and work on the farms, which Uni and I have done, or you can donate supplies through Amazon. They have a wish list. Small ticket items, garden shears. You can donate smartphones. People have donated 2 smartphones to the farmers, which means they can now photograph that day's crop, email it to local restaurants, take orders, and the community is making their urban farm profitable. And you can support from further afield. So essentially, this is a very future-forward concept, which is why, as I say, you know, I'm looking for a very small brand founder-member community. But it's very much about communicating through demonstration, communicating through doing. And in a world where the new marketing reality is complete transparency, quite frankly, I believe that is the only way to go forwards. You know, everything a brand does today is in the public domain, courtesy of the power of the internet. And to brand marketers who are scared of that, the answer is very simple. It's exactly the same answer whether you're a person or a brand. If you identify exactly who you are, what you stand for, what you're all about, what you believe in and you value, and you then only ever behave, act, and communicate in a way that is true to you, then you never have to worry about where anybody finds you or what you're found doing, because you're never ever caught doing anything to be embarrassed or ashamed of. Our organic iterative development means that just as our users are surfacing their own use case scenarios, our business model is also organic and iterative, because that in turn surfaces new revenue streams. So one of our revenue streams is conference activation. Conferences are one of the biggest repositories of good intentions that go nowhere. For the day of the conference, inspirational speakers, you know, audience solidarity, we're all going to do wonderful things. Get back to your desk, whoosh, all gone. So we work to activate good intentions into action on the day, and then we craft them into action platforms and microactions, so you can actually measure tangible impact and value coming out of that gathering. So we activated the Craigslist Foundation Bootcamp. The Craigslist Foundation is all about what Craigslist is, helping communities help themselves. And we have a hub structure on IfWeRanTheWorld that is designed to demonstrate interconnectivity. Every little thing we do impacts everything and everybody else. Microactions ladder up to action platforms, ladder up to an impact on the bigger picture. A hub is the bigger picture. It might be an event like Craigslist Bootcamp, or it might be a holding company with a load of brands, or it might be a theme. And in fact, another revenue stream that surfaced was we have our own version of Google AdWords called AtWords. People can tag their microactions and action platforms, and you can also buy those tags for a period of time. You can own a hub, and you can own everybody who wants to tackle the same area you do and mobilize them to be part of your action program. These are just some of the things that people have said on Twitter about us since we launched, and I hasten to add that these are all complete strangers, so they're not friends of ours being nice. Greatest idea I've seen in a long time. This is what the internet should be for. Stoked about the beta launch at IfWeRanTheWorld. This site has the potential to become anything and everything. I'm slightly head over heels crazy about IfWeRanTheWorld. I love the purpose, the model, and the simplicity. If TED is all about ideas worth spreading, IfWeRanTheWorld is actions worth spreading. IfWeRanTheWorld rocks, not far from thinking that it's more important than Twitter. And we really like that tweet because we have a very big ambition for IfWeRanTheWorld. This might sound a bit grandiose, one should always have a big vision. If Facebook is the social graph and Twitter is the interest graph, we've designed IfWeRanTheWorld to be the action graph. And we're trying to do something much more difficult than Facebook and Twitter, which is to get people to do shit in the real world. We are web meets world with the emphasis on world. So we actually have in the pipeline what we're calling IfWeRanTheWorld 2.0. And this is our next iteration, which I can't say too much about at this point in time, but what I will say is, what you put out there on the social web is talk. Facebook is talk, Twitter is talk, LinkedIn is talk. There is way too much talking in the world and too little doing, which is what we're all about. We are going to show you what that talk says. I'm going to show you how you can turn it into action. And as I said, I can't tell you too much more about it, but we're very excited about IfWeRanTheWorld 2.0, particularly because it also offers brands the opportunity to customize that into applications for what they want to do in very, very interesting ways. So just a couple of things to finish with before I take any questions anybody has. The first is that what all of this means is that actually IfWeRanTheWorld is not a destination website. It's not an online social network in the conventional sense. It's a utility. It doesn't look and feel like one deliberately, but it's purely and simply a web tool designed to do one thing only, which is turn intention into action. So we designed it to plug into anything and everything where somebody wants to make something happen. We have no competition, only partners. I believe the future of the world is about collaboration. I happen to believe the future of business is about collaboration in a way that we don't see currently. I want to collaborate with anybody and everybody who struggles with exactly that same point where the rubber hits the road. How do you turn intention into action? And the final thing to say is, another aspect of the psychology this is grounded in is, as human beings, we are a race of prevaricators and procrastinators. As a result, whenever we complete an action, however tiny, we feel enormously good about ourselves. If I just clear my desk, the sheer joy and delight I feel is way disproportionate amount of effort actually involved. IfWeRanTheWorld is predicated on the idea that as you complete each microaction, you build your self-esteem. You feel good about yourself. The more you do, the more you feel you can do, because action is transformative. It's the thinking behind that well-known saying, when a man is hungry, don't give him a fish, teach him to fish. Feeling you can, with one tiny action, begin taking active control of your life and your circumstances is what actually gets people out of, at the extreme end, poverty, abuse, despair. At the more everyday end, apathy, laziness, torpor. The single best lesson I ever learned in my life, ironically, was born of the advertising industry, which is when you identify what your personal brand stands for, what you believe in, what you value, what your philosophy of life is, that makes life so much easier. Life still throws you all the shit it always will, but you know exactly how to respond to it in any given situation in a way that is true to you. That is what actually builds self-confidence, self-belief, self-empowerment. When you align that with the ability to help other people and to feel part of something bigger than yourself, that is the secret of human happiness. Many research studies attest to that, and that's the blue sky vision for our venture. So, that's it, guys. Very happy to answer any questions you have.